We have a situation. So we have Micah from Chula Vista, California, telling us that his NFCU Platinum credit card's limit is sitting at just $2,000, and NFCU refuses to increase its limit. He has a high FICO score, 743, that's pretty high. And so the question here is, should I close the card? So we are going to answer into this conversation. Dear viewers, if you're interested, if you love this kind of topics, please pitch in the comment section and help us solve the problem that Micah has posed to us. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sorty Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, Micah has actually written to us and asked a question. So my NFCU Platinum limit is currently sitting at just $2,000, and Navy Fed refuses to increase my limit. My FICO score is high though, 743. Should I close the card? So what's really going on here? Wait a minute. So we're going to share your story, Micah, with the rest of our audience, so people can pitch in and people can actually contribute their wisdom. This is very important. We believe in collective wisdom. So Micah, we're not giving the last name, of course. You are a 42-year-old. You live in Chula Vista, California. You earn $75,000 a year. You are a celebrity baker. I have no idea what that means, but I mean, I guess the cakes that celebrities eat are different from the cakes that I and the rest of the people actually eat. So who knows? So you are a celebrity baker, which means you're making good money anyway. 75 grand a year. That's pretty good, pretty good cash. Okay. Your FICO score is 743, and your NFCU Platinum current limit is the limit on the card is $2,000. And you are married with one child, and you have been NFCU and NFCU member since 2005. So I'm just giving the lay of the land. I'm just laying out the today's discussion so our viewers can have a clear understanding of your fundamentals, okay, and your financial fundamentals, but also your life fundamentals, at least the ones that you agreed with us to share on the screen. It's very important to say that. So you are actually. You are married, you have one child, which means that you have two sources of income coming in the house. So you are earning 75 grand, but it's potentially more, double that. Who knows, 150, 125, or even more, like 200. Maybe your wife is pulling in enough cash, significant amounts of cash anyway too. So you are right about one thing: $2,000 as a credit card limit for someone with your financial fundamentals is kind of low. But we're going to dig in. We're going to see exactly what happened, because one thing you didn't tell us is since when you have had that credit card, because you said, my limit is sitting at $2,000. Should I close? But you didn't tell us when you did receive the credit card, because this could be important also in the analysis. First things first, Micah. The thing is, and I just asked you the question in the last section, when did you get your card? Because you see, when we analyze Penn Fed or Navy Fed credit cards, we need to think about timing. Timing is very important. Timing when it comes to asking for an increase, a credit limit increase. Timing when it comes to actually requesting an upgrade. Timing when it comes to applying for the credit card in the first place. So when did you get your credit card? Again, I'm not asking rhetorical questions. Those are not rhetorical questions. You have to answer us either in the comment section or via email. That's fine if you don't want your business to be aired there, whatever. We can actually get the answers from you, but you need to tell us when your credit card was when you got the credit card. What income did you give then? assuming that it was maybe several years ago, because the way you wrote the email, we thought that your 2000 limit, you got that limit several years ago, not 6 months ago or 1 year ago. So maybe several years ago, you were making less than 75 grand that you are making now. Okay. And the thing is, did you have your NFCU internal score at that time? What was it? Any idea? Because those are important elements to sort of contextualize the $2,000 that you got, right? And another thing I want to ask from you is, what about your CUR back then and now? Your CUR, your credit utilization ratio, your DTI, your debt to income ratio, the two quintessential elements that we always analyze. For us, when we analyze personal credit, those are very important elements that we pay attention to, because that tells you a lot about an individual's financial life, monetary situation, so to speak. Speaking about situation, what is your overall financial situation right now? Are you just chilling, monetarily speaking, or you are just scraping by? I don't think you are scraping by because you are cooking for celebrities. You live in California. Your wife is probably working also, and everything seems good for. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but I think that things are going great for you. Another question we have is in our first things first section here is your wife co-using the card with you? In other words, is the $2,000? Because if you have two adults using a credit card, then the expenses are kind of high, because then you are thinking about potentially, you are speaking about a high CUR, which is detrimental for your credit score and Navy Fed internal score anyway. You're having a high credit utilization ratio. That's really problematic there. So Micah, be careful. Be careful, because you have not spilled all the beans, but we can tell you for a fact, based on our experience with Navy Fed and based on our experience with all the other 4 top military institutions in this country, we've been with all of them for the last 30 years. You are speaking about Penn Fed, you're speaking about Service, you were speaking about Andrews, you were speaking about USAA. They actually pay attention a lot to the relationship you are building with them. Okay, Micah. So right now, I want you to beef up your relationship with NFCU if you have not already done so. The thing is, you're probably making a lot of cash, but if you're not putting some of your cash with them, why should they reciprocate by giving you a high limit credit card? You got to have skin in the game, boss. You got to have skin in the game, son. All right, you can't be just maybe you don't have direct deposit. I don't know if you are getting direct deposit or you are self-employed or you are a business owner. But if you have, I don't think you have direct deposit. I think bakers, they are getting their money. Or who knows, maybe you are working for a company, you get direct deposit. But my point is that you want to beef up your relationship with NFCU. And anytime I say this, there are some people who say, well, you just say the same thing all the time. Yeah, well, I'm going to say the same thing all the time because it is quintessential. It is important. If you don't have a relationship with the institution, don't you ask them for a high loan amount? Don't you ask them for a high credit limit? No. Think about having direct deposit. Micah, think about having direct deposit. Ask your wife to also have a direct deposit. If you guys can have a joint account, that will be perfect. In other words, what I want you to do here is I want you to increase the profile of your account vis-a-vis Navy Fed. I want you to also update your income. In other words, we are convinced, my team and I are convinced that you did not get your credit card last month or last week or 6 months ago or 1 year ago. You probably got it a few years ago. The question is, your income back then was not $75,000. So you want to update your income. Okay, so that Navy Fed knows that right now you are making money. You are making more than decent money. It's very important to update your economic condition in the institution's records. Those are very important. Think about opening one or more accounts. I'm talking about checking, savings, money market accounts, IRAs, and whatnot. Think about Navy Fed insurance. The funny thing is, a lot of Navy Fed members, and you probably listen to me right now, you don't know that Navy Fed offers insurance. You're probably just thinking about, I'm going to get my credit card from them, my loan from them. And but they offer insurance. So the more contacts you have with them, the better for you. Make sure that you have joint accounts with your wife. Hopefully she's working too. So you guys will have a solid joint account balance. Very quintessential. So having contextualized the analysis, now let's first give you a few solution ideas. Okay, solution idea number one. What you want to do here is that you really want to pay attention to any late payments on the card. Anything that's like you have $2,000 and you are pissed. I understand that. Hey, listen. I've been there, done that. I understand that. Been there maybe 30 or 25 years ago. 25 grand, I mean two grand, and you were trying, and you're looking at your income and all the things you can buy, and okay, but make sure that you are managing your credit history. You need to have perfect credit history. I mean perfect payment history. Make your payments on time, even better. Make multiple payments during the month. That way you are sure that you will have no problem. Okay, do not keep a high balance on the card. You might be thinking, hey, listen, this is only $2,000. You know, I don't really care. I can leave a balance of $1,500. No. But you know why? Because there's something called CUR, and CUR doesn't care about the original limit. It's a percentage. So it's a percentage. So if you have $2 grand, but you are keeping $1,500 on the card, that's a 75% CUR. That's kind of high. And you definitely don't want to be in that category. You don't want to be in that neighborhood. Okay, you want to be in the neighborhood of 25% or 30% or less. So don't open also too many accounts within the past 1 or 2 years. I mean, you're probably thinking that, you know, you want to increase your credit limit, your overall credit limit. So you probably are just going around and just applying for credit cards and what have you, but you have to stop. If you want NavyFed, if you want to concentrate on NavyFed, you want NavyFed to give you the maximum limit, you have to stop dispersing your energy. You have to stop wasting your energy, squandering your resources, squandering your FICO score. So you really don't open too many accounts at the same, because the thing is, your credit increase are factored into when NavyFed analyzes your NavyFed internal score. When they analyze your internal score, they pay attention to your recent inquiries. So those are really, really important, and you got to be really careful about that. So what I'm trying to ask you, what I'm asking you here directly is restraint. Hold your horses. Be patient. Focus on NavyFed. Beef up your relationship and wait for things to happen. Solution idea number 2. If you are trying to increase your limit, my question to you is, do you have too much available credit or too many credit cards? Because you are just focusing on a NavyFed, but what if you had already 10 credit cards? Because you didn't mention that. We forgot to ask you during the preliminary interview. We didn't ask you that, but what if you currently have, because you mentioned you're just mentioning the NavyFed Platinum card, okay? But what if you had like $50,000 combined limits on other credit cards? If that's the case, if that were the case, NavyFed wouldn't see the importance of raising you at this moment unless you are parking some of your cash with them. This is the kind of reciprocity that we usually talk about. The thing is that it's not about, because sometimes it becomes an ego trip. I have my Platinum and I'm just banking the 25K limit on the card. But what if you already have 25K on other credit cards that you're not using? The thing is, if you're not using the available balance, if you're not using the limits that is currently available to you, why would NavyFed, of all institutions, give you more, right? Unless you have made a strong point to them, you have pressed a strong case to them about the importance of having a higher limit with their credit cards. So those are really important things. So that's one thing. Have you had too many recent applications for credit? I just mentioned that too, but that's really important. And another thing I want to ask you is your account too new? That's the thing. Like, you didn't mention timing. For us, timing is really important. So is your account too new? Obviously, you have been a NavyFed member since 2005, which means that your account is not new. You're not a new member. But what about this particular credit card, this particular NFCU Platinum credit card? Is it new? When was it issued to you? And how have you been using it? And again, those are really important, because once you start analyzing the time, because if you told us, hey, listen, I got this car 6 months ago, we'll be like, okay, listen, man, just go back and chill, because 6 months is too short. They're not going to raise you. I mean, $2,000 is still small, but you got to hold your horses, be a little patient. But if you are telling me that they gave you the car, let's say 10 years ago, then we have a fundamental problem here. We have a quintessential problem that we need to fix. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another session of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still delving into a case brought to us by Micah O from Chula Vista, California, and you are a 42-year-old, and you are really pissed that Navy Fed is not increasing has not increased your credit card, your platinum credit card limit in the last, I don't know if you know, but right now you are sitting at $2,000, and you don't like that $2,000, which is understandable. I would have been pissed too. I mean, don't get me wrong. So now, solution idea number 3. One thing I want to ask you, and this is very important. You did not mention your DTI to us. See, you are making a lot of cash. Don't get me wrong. You're making a lot of cash, 75 grand. You're a celebrity baker, but you did not mention your expenses. And your expenses are important because your expenses will help us determine your DTI. See, the whole thing is there is a strong correlation between your income and your DTI, and the common denominator is your debt. If I were to give you an example, sometimes you see those those athletes who have signed, let's say, multi-million-dollar contract over the years, but then 10 years later their ass is broke, and they actually have to file for bankruptcy, and their credit is actually like nosedive, or whatever. So what I'm trying to say is you can be making a lot of cash, but if your expenses are proportionally high, you are going to have a high DTI. So if you don't have enough income for a credit limit increase, Navy Fed is not going to raise your limit. Okay? Or let's say you have received a limit increase recently, but I don't think so, because you said that you have not received anything. But the question is, do you have another Navy Fed credit card? I don't think so, because you would have told us. Or let's say if you have a record of low monthly payments, this could also be an indicator of financial, financial instability. The question is, you say, and the same way you did not mention your DTI, you also did not mention your CUR. So for us, the big question here is that what is really going on here? Do you have strong fundamentals at all, or you don't? Because you could be making a lot of cash, but if you are carrying a lot of a huge balance on your credit card, this is problematic. So if you have a record of low monthly payments, Navy Fed is going to look at you and think, you are at risk. They're not going to raise your limits right now. Solution idea number 4. Micah, we're still talking to you. So your score is 743, but you told us about your score. But when was the last time you checked your score? Because you said you are at 743 right now, but what if in reality you are at 600, which makes a huge difference? I'm speculating, of course, but you can answer us in the comment section or via email. But what I'm trying to say here is that the data you provided to us, we felt in our communication with you that this was not recent data. In other words, we're not really dealing with fresh data, let's say last month or last week. It looked to us like it was a little dated. So my question to you is, what is your current FICO score? Because you think you are at 743, which is more than decent, which is great. But what if you were not at 743? So if your credit score is too low, Navy Fed is not going to raise your limit. Okay. So check your credit score to see what factors are making it low, in case it is low. Your credit card issuer, in this case Navy Fed, will actually and the good thing is that Navy Fed allows you to check your credit score for free, so you have that service. So avail yourself of that, okay, and make sure that you have a clear idea about the components of your FICO score. because what you are looking at is exactly what the Navy Fed is going to look at. Of course, they have other metrics such as your Navy Fed internal score that they look at before increasing you. But yeah, so on your FICO report, do you have any major delinquencies? Do you have anything recently that is derogatory? Because again, for us, it's important to look at the context of a situation. Like you just told us the result. Like, I ain't getting the limits, $2,000. This is like cheap. I don't want they giving me peanuts. That's really emotional. It's interesting to hear you, but we look at the context. What surrounds the decision? What surrounds the particular case? And for us, this is really important to analyze that, to see if you have maybe you have had some recent delinquencies on the card, or not on the card, in your record in general. Okay, what about your wife? That's one thing we didn't hear about, because you did not talk to us about her financial fundamentals. Maybe especially if she is using the card with you jointly, then it would have been interesting for us to have a better idea about her finances also, because those two are, hers and yours are linked. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. So today's, we just are at the end of the show. Dear viewers, we love you. We love your smartness. We love your wisdom. Please comment below. Let's help Micah find a solution. He doesn't like the $2,000 that he has. He's pissed. He thinks he deserves more, and we think he deserves more. And so help him out and give him ideas, give him suggestions, so that very soon he can be maybe at $5,000 or $10,000. $10,000, that's what he thinks he deserves, quote unquote deserves, because you cannot deserve somebody else's money. But yeah, thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.